federal government and many states are suing landlords, saying that they formed a cartel using the software Realpage in order to set rent prices too high. But experts are saying that that is a completely bogus argument. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's coming from experts who looked into the whole allegations against the landlords and against the software company Realpage. And they're saying, hey, the argument that these people are forming a cartel in order to set rent prices, it's complete BS, okay? And they're going to explain why during this article that I'm going to go over today. Now, this article isn't new. It's actually from last year, about a year ago, when we first started hearing about allegations that landlords were somehow forming a cartel to set rent prices. And a lot of the arguments they use in this article are exactly what I've been saying in these videos, okay? That it doesn't make sense that, the landlords, they have too many different and varying goals and too many different, starting points, and that there's no reason for this to happen, that what they are suggesting is it's complete garbage. It's complete garbage. And you know what I personally believe? I believe that they are using landlords and this software company, Realpage, they're using them as a scapegoat for the real problem. The real problem being that there is not sufficient supply of housing for the demand that is out there, and that is what is leading to housing prices being higher, okay? So you can sit here and you can blame, software companies and landlords and everyone else, but the true problem is that these rent prices are high because there isn't enough supply and there's a high amount of demand, which is leading to the prices being much, much higher. At the end of the day, landlords cannot and should not be able to force tenants to pay what they can't pay, okay? Landlords can only charge what tenants are willing to pay. That's it. Not one penny more. It doesn't matter what you set your rent prices at. Doesn't matter if your rent is set to $2,000 a month way up here if your tenants can only pay $1,500 a month. So this, insane argument, these insane arguments are ridiculous. Okay, and I'm going to explain, and they're going to explain why during this article, okay? So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. So, let me know what you think of this whole, these lawsuits against these AI software companies, which are supposedly setting rent prices. Do you think that the government actually has a case here, or do you think this is garbage like I do? I think this is garbage. And you know what? I'm glad that these experts are coming out here and saying it, but the only thing that I think is going to happen is that we could lose some of the tools that we use to help us set software prices or to set rent prices, and we might have to find other ways to set our rents, okay? But anyway, let's get into it, because this is an interesting article. I'm gonna try to go through this whole thing, even if this video runs a little bit longer than my normal videos. So this article is coming from therealdeal.com, and it says, experts call claims of Realpage landlord cartel bogus. Conspiratorial pricing in multifamily is impossible. Report. The experts are coming out and saying that this whole thing is impossible. And they're going to say why as we go through this article. And as I mentioned before, this article, it's not new. It comes from September of 2023, so about a year back. Yet, the federal lawsuit against these companies is new. So anyway, let's see what the article says. Artificial intelligence has been blamed for job cuts, freaky art, and plagiarism, but allegations that algorithms illegally raised rents cannot be true, a report by industry researchers argues. In October, ProPublica reported that software from Realpage was driving up apartment rents across the country. Lawsuits followed, claiming that the software, which suggests rents for landlords by predicting availability and demand, had essentially created a cartel of multifamily operators. The Department of Justice launched an investigation. Now, a group of industry insiders, two of them quoted in the ProPublica article, are pushing back. Revenue management software pioneers Jeffrey Roper and Donald Davidoff, both of whom currently serve as CEOs of software firms that specialize in the multifamily sector of commercial real estate, joined with industry consultant Dom Beveridge on a report rebutting the nonprofit news site story. Not only is it untrue and that there is a multifamily cartel of any kind, it isn't even possible, the authors write. So yeah, we have industry experts coming up and they're saying, this is complete garbage, okay? This whole thing, these lawsuits, these people pushing this, they don't know what the heck they're talking about and they are idiots. Okay, they didn't say that. That's what I'm saying, okay? I think these people are idiots. They're wasting time. They're trying to, prove that, oh yeah, these big landlords, they're all colluding together to keep the rents high. And they're like, well, no, that is not what's happening. Okay, that is not what's happening at all. And you're drawing conclusions that don't make any sense. And let me continue with the article. I've already read it, and I want to explain why they believe that's the case. In the ProPublica article, David Roper, who served as chief scientist for Realpage from 2004 to 2012, discussed the history of revenue management software, but they claim the story excluding their explanations of how the technology works, and now want to set the record straight. Airlines, hotel owners, rental car companies, and rail operators have used revenue management software since the 1980s. Apartment owners have used it since at least the 1990s, but the article has stoked fresh anger among tenants and regulators. So I want you to pay attention right there, okay? First of all, Realpage is not the first revenue management software that apartment owners have used, right? It has become one of the most used ones throughout the entire country, right? And one of the biggest, if not the biggest. But it isn't the first, and it certainly will not be the last. So what we're saying is there is software out there right now that is helping landlords be able to determine what rents to charge. Determine what the market can bear and be able to turn a profit, as much profit as possible, okay? And this software is very, very useful. And apartment owners are not the only ones who use this sort of software. As they mentioned right there, airlines also use it, hotel owners and rental car companies. So why would these companies not use this sort of software? I mean, first of all, like in the case of, let's talk about the airlines and the hotels, okay? They need to be able to determine how much they can charge, okay? And that is highly dependent on, what day, other market conditions, competition, etc. Their bottom line from each airline to the other is different, just like with apartment buildings, okay? The bottom line for one apartment company to another is a completely different, okay? You cannot say that, okay, this apartment owner over here who owns this building over here, they have the exact same cost basis for operations as this apartment over here, so they can set their rents the exact same. It doesn't work that way, okay? As I have mentioned before, this apartment owner over here bought their property at a much lower cost basis because they bought maybe 15 years ago, and this one over here bought this year. Okay, so they have different loans. Okay, they have different insurance companies. This apartment over here, it might be older, much older, and has much more maintenance issues. This one has less maintenance because it's newer. I can go on and on and on and on and on, okay? And it's like they just don't figure out that, hey, and not only that, but these people are competing with each other. They're competing with each other oftentimes for the same tenants. And they can't just come out and say, well, we're both charging $1,500 a month. No. And you know what? They go through some of this as I'll continue with this article. So I'll let them explain. They are concerned that when the technology is applied to apartments, it allows landlords to share rent information and boost rents above natural levels, fueling the country's affordability crisis. Several property managers told ProPublica that the software led them to seek higher rates that they would have without it. In the aftermath, at least 2 class action lawsuits were filed against Richardson, Texas-based Realpage. The new report argues that the software is designed to encourage competition, not suppress it, and that the allegations provide an unhelpful distraction from the much more pressing matter of housing affordability. In a statement, Realpage noted that it played no role in the white paper and that we applaud the thorough work it represents and hope it will be a catalyst for similarly constructive analysis and discussion that will rebut the many inaccuracies and distorted narratives about our industry. A spokesperson for ProPublica said the outlet stands by its reporting. Yeah, so ProPublica supposedly talked to a couple of, let's see here, it says that they talked to at least 2, they talked with several property managers, and they said the software led them to seek higher rents. Yeah, that's exactly what the software is supposed to do, okay? And what are you telling us, that you don't want the landlords to be able to raise their rents up to market levels? That's what it seems that they want, okay? They don't want the landlords to be able to raise their rents up to market levels. And then they say, oh, well, you're raising them up to levels that are higher than natural. Like I said, you cannot force tenants to pay rents that they are unwilling to pay, and you cannot get people to pay more rent than they can afford. It's just impossible. That's the way the market works. So, you know, the argument that, oh, well, you know what, you're charging rents that are higher than what the market can bear, it's a dumb argument. It doesn't make any sense, and it's completely wrong. Consolidated supply. The rebuttal begins by examining how a cartel can occur and whether the multifamily market could sustain one. Supply of a product, in this case rentals, needs to be consolidated among relatively few competitors with common financial objectives and a way to coordinate pricing decisions. ProPublica had looked at Belltown, a trendy Seattle neighborhood with just over 9,000 market rate apartments. The publication found that 70% of the apartments are managed by 10 management companies. There's an emperor has no clothes thing about reading that statistic, Beveridge said. Think about grocery stores or car dealerships or any other kind of local service. Can you think anywhere where 70% of the supply comes from some number greater than 10 different companies? And he has a good argument right there, okay? In terms of grocery stores, you know, like, are there more than, like, I live in Omaha, Nebraska, a metropolitan area of around 900,000 people, and I guarantee there aren't more than 10 grocery store chains in this entire metropolitan area. There aren't. You know, it just isn't. You know, like they have a very consolidated number of grocery stores that provide services for the entire area. So, you know, you can't say that they have a cartel because they still compete with one another, and you know, they have very, very different business models, all of them. You know, when you're trying to compare, for example, Aldi over here to our, what is that place called? Baker's, which is like a Kroger store, or even comparing either of those two to Walmart. You know, like they have very different operating costs, very different operating procedures, and you know, it's not easily comparable. Okay, so could they theoretically all be working together? Maybe, but that's just not the way it works. And it's the same with rental housing. So let me continue. ProPublica reported that at one Belltown building using Realpage's YieldStar revenue management software, rents have increased 42% since 2012, compared with 33% at similar downtown buildings. ProPublica did not disclose if any of those buildings used YieldStar. Beveridge said studying Belltown as a distinct apartment market doesn't accurately reflect how renters search for apartments. You're not only looking on the same block, he said, you're probably looking at multiple different neighborhoods quite far away from each other when you're considering moving. Yeah, so they used a very specific data source because they wanted to paint the industry as negatively as possible. So, you know, they said, oh, well, in this one neighborhood, 70% of the units are owned by these 10 companies, right? And I'm like, yeah, but who, when they're going out to rent an apartment, only looks at one neighborhood, okay? A lot of people are looking at half of a city. not one neighborhood of a city. You know, it's a dumb argument, and it's very misleading, and it comes to the fact that they wanted, like I said, to paint the landlords and the apartment industry in a very negative light. Nationally, ProPublica found Consolidation. The share of apartments in the U.S. controlled by the 50 largest property managers has grown annually for the last 14 years. By 2021, they oversaw about 4.2 million units. The rebuttal attacked that argument by noting that the country's largest apartment owners, as opposed to managers, had seen market share decline 17% in a decade to about 2.4 million units. Meanwhile, the top property managers increased their share by 58%. So what they're saying is, oh, you look, there's a lot of consolidation out there. Well, the number of big apartment owners out there have actually decreased the number of units they own. Okay? And the thing is, property managers, like property owners, such as ourselves, are oftentimes using the same property managers. So you'll have large apartment complexes, different owners, but they use the same property management company. And you know what? It works out well many times. But in the case of this software, what that means is a lot of the property owners are using this software because they have the same management. ProPublica called managers more relevant to the issue. Our reporting focused on property managers, not property owners, because managers are the ones who are using revenue software to price apartments, and they have indeed become more consolidated over time, the ProPublica spokesperson said. Renters are simply encountering fewer apartment operators when looking for a place to live in some urban markets. A former antitrust prosecutor told ProPublica that Realpage's online forum and invitation-only meetings could raise an antitrust flag. Still, the rebuttal makes the case that multifamily operators with control over about 20% of the apartment market are too fragmented to be a cartel. It also notes that financial objectives vary among rental properties. Okay, and now they're going to go into the part where I was talking about, where every different apartment building, every different apartment owner has different priorities for their properties. Some owners need to fill apartments fast, even if it means cutting rents. Others have the time to wait. There's no scenario at all where somebody gets the price high all the time, Beveridge said. This idea that there's some causality of revenue management that's making the prices go up is absolutely untrue. A new project in lease-up needs cash flow and activity, so owners aim to sign renters quickly, even if it means offering concessions. A value-add project, on the other hand, may be more willing to wait for higher-paying renters to show investors that the renovations yielded returns. If owners and operators have different objectives, the rebuttal reasons, they should have different definitions of an ideal price. And 100% correct, okay? And I love the examples that they gave, okay? You have a brand new apartment building, it's not cash flowing, and you want to get it filled up with tenants as quickly as possible. So here you are, you're offering concessions, you know, you're keeping the rents low, you're working out deals so that you can get those units rented. You're not looking at, well, what is the highest rent I could possibly be charging? You might be able to charge $100 or $200 less per month and still be good, because you know what? All your units are getting rented up quickly. But meanwhile, the other people, like they said, the value add people, they just put a ton of money into repairs. They've already got tenants in some of the units. All they want to do is get the return on their investment for the value add, so they're going to charge the maximum rents possible. And you know, like, so there's different ways to play the game, different ways. So like I agree with this author. Like they said, you know, it doesn't seem possible. It seems ridiculous. I think the lawsuit is really a push, and I mentioned this before in one of my other videos. I think the lawsuit is a push towards rent control. Okay, I really do. like artificial government price controls. The government wants to be the ones who set the rent prices. They don't want you to be able to make the maximum amount of profit possible. They want to screw you over. There is no cartel. There is no, these landlords colluding together to set prices. This software doesn't do that. You cannot force people to pay something that they just can't pay. That's it. Okay? And I hope this whole thing collapses. But you know what? Who knows? Who knows? This political environment with these socialists running everything, it could be very, very bad for this company and for landlords.